Hello, my name is Tom from Mark My Words, and this is our Saturday morning podcast. No, I'm just joking. Actually, yesterday we had a customer named Lily. Lily, warm hugs to you, who bought our video training. But before she bought the video training, we had a conversation and we talked about how to best utilize the training, what information in regards to the Jira environment is actually necessary to be successful while working with BigPicture, because BigPicture is an app for Jira, so you need to understand some Jira features, some Jira functionalities to actually be able to work to the full extent or full capacity of BigPicture's functionalities. So I promised her that we are going to record a video regarding that, and we are also going to point to the most important videos in our video training course for BigPicture. So this is what today's video or this video is going to cover. I promised Lily that she's going to get this video by today morning, so that's why it's Saturday morning and I'm sitting here and recording this for you guys. I also thought that this actually might be interesting for more people than just Lily, therefore I'm going to make a YouTube video from it. All right, so without any further ado, let's start with concepts or aspects of Jira that might be necessary for BigPicture users. And then I will also switch to the other tab where I already have the BigPicture course opened, and I will tell you which videos are the ones that you shouldn't definitely be skipping while going through the materials, if going through all of this at once is a little bit too much. All right, so in terms of Jira, when I'm doing the live training and the group is not very proficient in the Jira environment, I'm usually pointing out some of the major features of Jira that have a big impact on what's happening in BigPicture as a project management tool as well. And this is exactly what we are going to go through right now. So the most important thing that I always need everyone to understand is that Jira is organized around projects. Okay, so we have a Jira project over here. Always in the top menu drop down, you will find those projects, and you can see that I have a list of projects over here. Now, what is a Jira project? Well, this will be a huge simplification, so those of you that are more proficient in Jira will probably feel a little bit bad about this kind of explanation, but I feel that it works and people understand projects better by this. So the easiest way to understand the project is to imagine that the project is just a bucket for tickets, for issues, for any kind of objects that you want to create in Jira. Okay? So Jira is evolving around issues and evolving around projects. That's why you have this green prominent button over here saying create, and this is a button that allows you to create an issue. But issue cannot exist outside of any project, so you can't create an issue that will be floating freely somewhere here in Jira. Every issue has to belong to a Jira project. So you have to have those Jira projects, and they are essentially buckets for those issues, right? When you want to start a new initiative in your company, you might create a Jira project for it and then put all the Jira issues belonging or describing or used for planning that initiative into that project. You might be using Jira projects to capture all the elements belonging to a certain department, to a certain team, to a certain group of people, certain functional pillar in your organization, right? So there are different uses for projects. I'm not defining how you should use a project because it depends strictly on how you're planning to work with Jira, what do you want to achieve over here. But essentially, these are buckets for issues, right? Of course, they have many additional features that allow you to define some specific things for every single project, but we are not here to go into those details. Okay, so you have projects, and those projects are storing issues, and these are the two main building blocks of of Jira, of course, right? Then another thing that is quite important is that when you look at a single Jira issue, so I'll click one of those and I'll get into the screen that will be showing me the details of this Jira issue. You will notice that every Jira issue is holding quite a lot of information most of the time, right? So you have an information about the issue type, priority, versions, components, labels, status, resolution, fixed version, people that are assigned, person that created that, some dates, some time tracking. So these are all very important elements that describe any kind of issue you create. And the most important elements out of those is definitely the status, right? So the status of an issue comes from a workflow that is attached to that issue. So every issue has to have an assigned workflow, and an issue can be worked on according to the workflow that is attached to it. So let's have a look at the workflow that is attached to this one that I've opened. Okay, this one is pretty nice. It's not super simple, but it's also not very complicated. So you can see that after the issue has been created, it always is in an open status. From the open status, it can go into in progress. Then it can also be closed directly from open or from in progress as well. It can be resolved. So these are two quite similar statuses, basically indicating that something has been done. And then you also can reopen an issue, right? So if it already has been closed or resolved, you can go back to reopen, and then from reopen again to in progress. So if work, for example, in this case, theoretically has been finished, but practically actually hasn't, someone checked and maybe something hasn't been finished as it should be, it can be reopened, put back into the progress, and then closed again properly, right? So you can create those kind of workflows, and they can be very complicated. They can have like 20, 30, 50 statuses over here, or you can use a very simple workflow like this one, or even simpler, right? So depending on your needs, you might have something very easy or something more advanced over here. But what is important is that Jira allows you to go or to transfer the issues through that workflow. And this, of course, brings you a lot of important information regarding the current status or current progress of the work that is being done. Because, of course, you can use those statuses to also count or measure the progress of your work. So, for example, you might want to know how many issues you have in the open state, how many issues you have currently in progress, how many issues have already been closed or resolved, right? So definitely the workflow part is something that is worth understanding, so that you can get the most out of the Jira plus BigPicture at the same time. Another important element out of everything that is visible over here is the time tracking feature. Because again, BigPicture is a project management tool. In the project management tool, you always want to have some kind of information regarding the fact of how your project is going, how it's progressing. And this is what time tracking in Jira allows you to do. So time tracking in Jira, it's a default feature. It's not coming with from any kind of app. And BigPicture is reusing the same feature that Jira brings. So the time tracking in Jira environment allows you to, first of all, estimate your task with the field called original estimate, then also put a value into the field called the remaining estimate, and if you don't, it will automatically be copied from the original estimate, and then log work on the task so that you can, first of all, track the amount of time that has been spent to complete the task, and also see how your original estimate worked out in the end, whether the task was overestimated or maybe underestimated or just estimated perfectly, right? So with this section over here, you can actually very easily see this information, right? So you can see that the task has been estimated for 1 week. Currently, there are already 3 days logged on the level of the task, but there are still 4 days remaining, right? So that's why this bar is not filled completely, because 1 week in Jira actually means 1 working week. So that's 5 working days, right? And we see over here that we've spent already 3 days, and we estimate that we don't have just 2 days left, as according to the original estimate we might want to have, but we actually have 4 days left, right? Which brings us to, the current estimate brings us closer to 7 days rather than 5 working days, so 1 week over here, right? So this kind of information is, of course, very important for any kind of project planning, and BigPicture is reusing those features as well. So you can show those fields in BigPicture in your Gantt column views, for example, in your scope module. And of course, these are also used in the resources module and the resource planning. So it's kind of important to understand how the time tracking works. I'm not saying that it's a mandatory thing because you can do the tracking of the progress of your work without the time tracking, without those estimates. As I mentioned before, you can use statuses very well for this as well. Or if you're working with Agile, you might be working with story points, which Jira supports, of course, out of the box as well. But if you want to measure the amount of time that the tasks are taking, then this is something that definitely needs to be understood. And that, I think, concludes more or less the part that concerns Jira. And of course, there are a lot of other elements on the level of Jira that might be important, but without knowing any specifics of your particular case, it's really hard to point to the right direction from here, because the paths from here, these are the basics, right? And the paths from here might be going into many different directions. So you might be interested in components, you might be interested in versions, you might, for example, be interested in adding some additional data, creating some custom fields, right? So of course we could talk more and more over here, but that's not the point of this video, and I will leave you with that. But from this point, we will skip to the other tab, that is the Big Picture course. This is how it looks like when you're logged in and you go inside the course. And over here on the left side, you have the list of all the videos belonging to the course, right? So as you can see, there are quite a lot of them. And watching through all of those is like 12 to 14 hours of materials, right? So we are not joking when we are saying that this video course covers everything that is also being covered during our live training. Live training takes 2 days, right? So of course, the amount of videos, the amount of materials over here cannot be short, right? But if somebody is in a hurry, or if somebody doesn't want to use everything that BigPicture has to offer, or if somebody wants to just start slower and then expand his or her knowledge later on, then I'm going to tell you right now which of these videos are the ones that you definitely should watch, because they will help you on your way. It doesn't matter what you will be doing with BigPicture, whether you'll be working waterfall or agile or any kind of mixed approach. But I will also tell you how the course is organized, so that maybe it's easier for you to pick the areas that are the most important for you and therefore save some time. So first of all, we have a welcome message and introduction to BigPicture update, to BigPicture 8 update. So this area is, it has been quite important some time ago, because we were summing up all the changes that were introduced with BigPicture 8. But if you're fresh, you basically don't care too much about it because you haven't seen the previous version anyway, right? So all the videos are recorded with BigPicture 8. Therefore, you will have no troubles understanding the difference between 7 and 8 because you don't care about version 7. So you don't have to worry about this one too much. You can jump straight into this area, so main screen and boxes. So this is covering the main screen of BigPicture, and this is covering the concept of boxes. So all you need to know about home view, definitely you need to watch. Creating new projects and boxes, absolutely right, because this is the foundation of anything that is happening inside BigPicture. Just like Jira is organized around projects, BigPicture is organized around boxes. So you need to understand how to create those boxes. Defining scope of the box, absolutely necessary. Configuring box types, maybe a little bit less important, especially for the beginning. But if you want to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how your boxes can work, can behave, can sometimes also interact between one another, can be placed into the hierarchy, this is something that explains these areas. Overview module, basically it's quite similar to the home module. So if you are in a hurry, you might want to skip this one. This is for BigPicture 7 only, so we don't care about it. Then we are going into Gantt and Scope modules. So they are grouped over here together because Scope is very, very similar to part of the Gantt module. So if you know the Gantt, you probably don't have to watch Scope module anymore because it's so similar to the left part of the Gantt, so the table part. But if you want to work with the waterfall approach, you definitely need to watch the Gantt module part 1 and part 2. So these parts are again broken into part 1 shows you the most important, most generally used features, right? And part two is going into those elements of the Gantt that are a little bit more advanced, right? So we are going from the simple approach to a more advanced approach. But one way or another, I feel strongly that the features that are sometimes a little bit hidden in the Gantt are so good that it's definitely worth watching both parts at the same time. Then this is also important because this allows you to understand how the column views are being set up. And you might be able to figure out by yourself because it's really not that difficult. But also at the same time, I don't think that this video is very long. So it might be worth just having a look at it. Yeah, it's just 15 minutes. It might be worth having a look at it and discovering the concept of configuration of column views by yourself. Scenarios, I don't think that's super important right now. Quick filters, again, something that might be skipped at the beginning, but building hierarchy with structure builders, I feel again that this is the part that is quite crucial. And if you are in a hurry, you might skip this one, right? Because this allows you to create a hierarchy in BigPicture that is based on Jira data. But you also can create very easily the hierarchy in BigPicture with manual indentations and indentations. And that works, but it has some drawbacks. So this video is explaining what is the better method of creating the hierarchy, but this one will take like half an hour, I think, because it takes a little bit of time to, it's 40 minutes almost, to explain the concept. But I feel that this is quite an important area, but not necessary for beginners, okay? Gantt module, key points and use cases. So this is like a summary of the Gantt. And then the scope module, as I said, if you will understand the Gantt, then I don't think you will have problems with the scope module. But if you want to watch it, it's like 10 or 15 minutes. So it's quite easy. Now, resources and risks. Resources, if you're working again waterfall, then you probably want to also work with the resources. So resources are usually quite tied up with the Gantt, although they don't interact too much between one another. Well, there is some interaction, but not a huge one. So resources module and team module, I think that this is worth watching if you want to work with the resources. Key points and use cases, again, if you watch this one, you'll be good. If you just want a short version of the resources, this is the one to go with, right? And then the same goes for the risk module with administration setting. If you want to use risk module, if you want to capture your risks using BigPicture, then this is something that you definitely should watch. This is definitely optional. Then we get into areas that are a little bit more connected with the agile approach. So board and roadmap are usually used in the agile approach, although I feel that the roadmap can very well be used in any kind of approach that you're using in your company. So board module, definitely something to watch if you are planning on working agile. If you want to work agile a little bit later and start with waterfall now, you can skip this and come back to it later. You have the access to the course for 12 months, and don't worry. Synchronizing your board and box data with Jira sprints and other fields. I think this is the most advanced feature concerning the agile way of working with BigPicture. So if you want to start a little bit simpler, this is definitely something that you can skip. Roadmap is a module that allows for the objective-based planning. If you don't want to do it from the start, again, this might be skipped. Other modules, reports and calendar module. So these two can be definitely skipped at the beginning if you don't want to spend too much time. Additional administration settings and BigPicture Enterprise features. So if you have BigPicture Enterprise, or if you're planning to get BigPicture Enterprise, this is something that will explain all the BigPicture Enterprise features. So it might be worth having a look at. But BigPicture admin and Jira admin settings is something that, again, for the basic users is not very critical, so you might want to skip this one too. And then implementation program setup strategy is safe in BigPicture. So security settings, I guess I should say that this is something you should watch, right? Because security is important. If you want to limit for example, number of people that have access to the data that you're storing in your BigPicture boxes, this is something that you have to be aware of. But if you have a smaller company and everybody can see everything anyway, maybe this is not as important for you at the beginning. BigPicture implementation process basically lays out our experience in implementing BigPicture in many different companies. So this is the process that we are using, and we are sharing that process with you so that we can help you implement BigPicture, because we want every customers of ours to be successful with this beautiful tool. Program and portfolio in BigPicture. This is tackling an approach that allows you to capture some broader perspective. So not just simple boxes representing your projects, but maybe creating some kind of a portfolio that contains programs, that maybe contains projects underneath that. Then those projects maybe are broken down into smaller pieces. Although I have to mention that this is also a little bit covered when we are discussing the concept of boxes and explaining over there how the boxes can be put into the hierarchy. So if you watch that one, this one might be optional as well. Decide on your program strategy. That's a little bit connected to the program and portfolio approach. So you might want to skip this one as well. And then if you're working with Scaled Agile Framework, then you might want to use or watch this one. But if you're not working with SAFe, then this is definitely optional for you. And then the sum up, right? So in general, the box area is important because this is the foundation, and you want to understand the foundation. And then, depending on what kind of functionality you're looking for from BigPicture, then you probably will be interested in the Gantt. You probably will be interested in the resources. You might be interested in a board module if you're planning on working with the Agile approach. And that's it. So I really hope that this video will help you save some time and will help you get the most out of the training. And if you will have any questions, you can definitely post them in the comments under this video, and we will do our best to answer the questions fully so that no questions gets unanswered. Thank you very much, and see you in the next videos.